Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Right, 9 months. Can't believe it. It's absolutely flown by. Who'd have thought that a year ago I was researching this medication along with some other bits and pieces to see whether or not it was doable, whether it was viable for me. And now I'm 9 months into my journey, having been taking it since the very end of November. So this is like my calendar 9 months. I started taking my first jab on the 27th of November, and I believe today is the 28th of August. So pretty much bang on 9 months to the day. So I'm going to go over some numbers today. So I'm going to go over my weight, original weight, bits and pieces like that. Also, some of the details that my scale gives me. So things like my BMI, body fat, muscle mass. Do apologise, I have notes because there's a lot of numbers today. Visceral fat, all of those stuff. And I've also done my measurements. So I will go over the measurements, but I'll just do the basic ones. I'm not going to go over every single one. I think I take about 6 or 7 measurements. I'll just give the main 3. Okay, and then, so if you're here for the numbers, great. Hold on, I'll be going through the numbers in a second for you. If the numbers are overwhelming, please bear with me, because I'm then going to go on to go over what I'm going to be doing for the next 3 months. So basically, phase 2, what does the reboot looks like? But I'm going to start off with sharing something that I found. I was going through trying to find some old photos, trying to, for the thumbnail more so than anything. And I came across a short that I did last July, so just over a year ago. So what's that? 13, maybe 14 months ago. And I did this short for my other channel. I'm going to play it alongside. So this is pretty much around the time that I was beginning to look into GLP-1s, Ozempic originally. Also, I was trying to look at things like fasting. I was just trying to find something to help me lose some weight. Now, at this point, I had already lost somewhere in between 3 and 4 stone. I'm not 100% sure what the weight was then, because I go through phases of weighing and then I go through phases of not weighing. So I would say I was most likely about a stone heavier at this point than when I started. I started Mounjaro at 12 stone. So I reckon I was most likely about 13 and a half here. But yeah, so I managed to lose pretty much 4 stone prior to going on to Mounjaro. And then I started Mounjaro at 12 stone. So I'm going to run through the figures because I have done my original weights and what I am now. So my original weight back in 2020 when I was diagnosed diabetic was 210 pounds. I'm not going to go for all the different weights. I will pop them up here for you. So I have 210 pounds, and with my BMI at around 39 at that time. Okay, then fast forward a few years, I'd managed to drop a few stone, and when I started Mounjaro, I started at 169 pounds, and that was a BMI of 32. Today, I have weighed in and I am currently 130 pounds, 0.7. And that gives me a BMI bang on 25. Now, it depends on who you do your BMI checks with, because they're all slightly different. I did try it on the NHS one, and I think that was coming out 24.8, which puts me in the healthy range. But the ones that I'm taking are the one from my NutriCheck app, because that's what I've used from day one. So it's just a like-for-like comparison. I'm not saying one is right, one is wrong. Just that's the comparison. So according to my NutriCheck, I am bang on 25, which you're supposed to be under 25 to be in the normal range. So, I'm maybe half a pound off, if that. So yeah, I don't have an ideal weight. I think I'm going to be in and around the 120 mark. Now that could be 126, which is 9 stone, or it could be a little bit lower, which would give me about 8.5 stone. I haven't got a figure. I don't know. I will just know when I get there. So in theory, I reckon I've got somewhere in the region of around £7, maybe 10 to lose. So, but like I said, I don't know. I will stop when I get there. I still do think there is, some small pockets of fat. Still holding quite a bit of excess around my middle. So everything else has not gotten skinny because I'm working out and making sure I don't get skinny. But yeah, my arms and my legs are still out of proportion to my middle, which I've pretty much always been like that since I started putting on weight. I always put it on around the middle. My arms and my legs were the last ones to chunk out. So I'm almost the same proportion as I am, just 5 stone lighter. Yeah, 5 stone, I think. I've lost count, but I'll pop it up there. Okay, right, so I've also done some measurements. So my measurements when I first started, and I will just run through the basic 3. So my bust, I've got these in centimetres, so I'll pop the inches up here as well. So my bust started off at 112 centimetres, and I am now down to 93 centimetres, which is a loss of 19 centimetres. My waist was 103 when I started, now down to 80 centimetres, so that's a loss of 23 centimetres. And then my hips started off at 116, now down to 91, and that's a loss of 25 centimetres. So I've definitely lost much more off my bum and my hips than I have off my waist. But my waist has suddenly come down. I think from the last time that I did it, I've lost something like 5 centimetres just off my waist, whereas the other ones have come down by half or 1 centimetre. So that's making a real big difference. I'm noticing that I'm getting a little bit more of a figure, whereas before I used to be very straight up and down. So that's a bonus. Okay, so especially the waist, I think that has had a definite effect on the next set of figures. So according to my scale, I've got one of the digital scales that does muscle mass, water, and all of that stuff. And again, I don't believe them to be accurate, but I do think they're a good benchmark because this is what I started off on. This is where I weighed. So I look at trends and not the actual number that it's coming up with. The only way you're going to get a true accurate reflection would be a DEXA scan, and I didn't get one at the beginning, so getting one now is pretty pointless realistically. So again, when I started, 169 pounds, that gave me a BMI of 32.3, and now 130.7 pounds, and that gives me a BMI of 25. My body fat when I started was 41.5, which is high, and I'm now down to 30.3, and I believe under 35 for a female is average. So I'm back into that normal range. I'd still like to see some more of the body fat gone, but maybe I would like to get into the very high 20s, maybe see that at like 28, 29, but I'm not far off, 30.3. My muscle mass, now I have lost muscle mass. I knew I would. It's pretty inevitable. It's pretty impossible to lose weight because as a big person, you need more muscle just to physically carry you around. So a bigger person, percentage-wise, will most likely have that little bit more muscle. So I started off with a muscle mass, according to my scales, of 92.8 pounds. That has now come down to 85.4. But if you look at them as a percentage of the original weight, the actual percentage has gone up, bizarrely. So it's something like 54.9% originally, but now 65.4. So the ratios have changed. It basically means that I've got more muscle compared to my fat now than I did when I started. So yes, I've lost muscle mass in physical pounds. However, the ratio has gone in favour of muscle. So I hope I've explained that. I know what I mean. But, you know, I do want to build muscle, but realistically, I just don't want to lose as much as I could have been losing. So I think, what's that, 5, 6, 7 pounds of muscle? So I don't think that's too bad, considering the total amount that I've lost. And my total loss is now 38 point something. 38, yeah, I want to say 38.3. And that's my total loss on Mounjaro in pounds, which is around 25%. No, sorry, about 23% of my body weight when I started. However, if you go back to the 210 pounds, I'm down well over a third of my body weight now, so well over the 33%. But the other thing that my scale measures is visceral fat. Now, when I started, my visceral fat was a score of 14, and I don't know what the units are that it uses to measure it, but it was scoring as 14, which was very high in the dangerous level. My visceral fat today is scoring 7, and according to my scale, 8 and below is good. So I've halved it, whatever that scale is, but I've gone from 14 down to 7. So I've halved it, and I'm in what is classed as the healthy range. I've always known I carried a lot of visceral fat because I've always had a thick waist. And although I haven't worked it out, but my height to weight ratio is still too high. I've still got waist measurements to lose. So it's not about the scale anymore. It's about the physical. It's about the measurements. The other thing my scale did, I don't like to thank it for this, but it made, now I'm 56 and I will be 57 at the end of the year, so December. But my body age, according to the scale, was 63. So it added on, now because I did this when I was 55, so it added on 8 years. So I've now gained a year, but my scale hasn't adjusted. But it now makes me 59, which is added on 3 years. So I've gone from 8 years over old to now 3 years over old, which I'm happy with. I'd still like to see it come down to my actual age. So we'll see how that goes. So realistically, that's all the measurements. And I'm amazed. They are all coming in the right direction. They are close to what I would class as the very top end of normal, average, whichever way you want to look at it. I don't have a number that I want to get down to. I do, however, think I've still got, like I said, around 7 to 10 pounds to go, and that will bring me comfortably into my range. It gives me a range that I can fluctuate and go up and down. I don't want to be in the bottom half of it, but I do want to be in the top half, just not just in the top, if that makes sense. So basically, this leads me on to the next bit. At the moment, I'm at 9 months. So for me, I want to be in maintenance at a year. I always thought that a year on this would be my goal. That's changed slightly in the fact that because of my diabetes, even though I am in remission at the moment, there is a good chance that I could possibly be on this for maybe for life, but maybe for at least a couple of years to keep my diabetes into remission. And I think once I can stabilise my weight, so if I can get to goal or close to whatever my goal ends up being, if I can get to goal and then maintain that for another year, I think that would be the point that I would be looking to come off. I mean, it may be that I titrate down and I just have that 2.5 or maybe even 5 milligrams as a backup dose almost. But I've tried to do some research, and there's not very much research on how you should manage it with diabetes in remission. So, you know, that what I have been able to find is that, yeah, this is a lifetime drug, because diabetes is a lifetime condition. So even though you have it in remission, there is a chance that I could be on this to maintain. But I also may be able to just maintain by keeping a healthy weight and food and exercise. The fact is, I don't know. And there doesn't seem to be a direct answer right there either. And there definitely doesn't seem to be anything in the NHS guidelines that I can find anyway. So I think it's a bit of a suck it and see. Hopefully, as long as my GP agrees to keep me on the dose that I'm on, then I'm happy to do that. But as you guys know, I can't go up a dose. I am on the 7.5, and my diabetes is in remission, so there is no reason for me to go up any further. So having that in mind, and obviously I still do have a weight loss goal, which is additional to the diabetes. I've chose to split dose, and I have upped my dose slightly from what I can in the pen by using the golden dose. So I'm able to do 4 injections of 9 milligrams using a 7.5 pen with addition of the additional extra golden dose. So I'm taking a little bit more volume than what you would class as a normal 7.5 injection. But I'm splitting that now. I decided to try it. I was taking it all in one go, and I was still getting that hunger at the end of the week. So I thought, I'm going to try the split dose and see what happens. So I now take 4.5, which I believe off the top of my head is 36 clicks. I have marked my pen. And I do that twice now throughout the week. So I do a Wednesday and a Sunday, give or take. I've been doing that now for, I think this is the end of the 2nd week, and it seems to be working. That the level is beginning to be a little bit more consistent, so I'm not having the hunger at the end of the week now. We'll see. I mean, that's the max that I can do with a 7.5 pen, so I can't go up anymore. So I'm trying to sort of make it work a little better for me. But saying that, going into these next 12 weeks, which is basically what I've got left to get to my 1 year, 3 months. So I'm doing a reboot, a bit of a reset. I have taken my foot off the gas over the last couple of months since I came back from my holiday. I did purposely take a bit of a diet break. I upped my calories slightly. I have still been losing, and I have still been eating in a slight deficit. And I think I've lost approximately just shy of 10 pounds in the 3 months. So that's what, 2.5 to 3 pounds a month. So it's small, but it still has significantly been ticking down. And that's pretty much what I want to do for the next 3 months. However, I just want to ramp it up a little bit. Just be a little bit more mindful. You know, that last 10 pounds is always going to be the bitch to get rid of. So, as of Monday, I happen to have a week off work. So I am hitting the reset button. I am going to dial down my calories. Now, that's not being stupid. That is sticking between my 12 and 1300 calories. And I would say over the last few months, I've most likely been tipping up to closer to the 14. So it's just dialing those calories back another 100, back to where I should be. And as a reboot as well for next week, being as I am off work, I'm going to try and go to the gym every day. Now, I'm going to try and do a slightly different vlog for next week and do a little bit of a daily vlog. I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know. I don't tend to do it very often. So I might do that covering my, trip to the gym, what I get up to in the week, maybe some food. I'm not going to be logging every single meal, but maybe an idea of what I'm eating throughout the week. So yeah, I'm going to keep a record of my calories. I'm going to be very mindful of my protein. I do want to be hitting a minimum of 80. I aim for around 100 grams of protein, but anywhere between 80 and 120 is my goal, but I don't want to go under that 80. The other thing I need to be doing is getting my steps in. I'm so bad with my steps, so I do want to aim for my 6k steps consistently every day. Now, I have got my walking pad back out, so I'd sort of put it away a little bit. So that's one. And if the weather plays ball, I will be walking to and from the gym a couple of times. So hopefully that will just give me a little bit of a boost on the steps. So that's pretty much going to be it. It's going to be a 12-week countdown, really. Doesn't a certain slimming group do that, the 12-week countdown? Sure they do. Mine's going to be slightly different. But yeah, it's just going to be almost back to basics. Look at my calories and look at my exercise and put some effort in. So, like I said, I don't have a target weight. When I get there, I get there. And I think I'll know when I get there. But in an ideal world, I would love to be at the point of saying I'm in maintenance by the time I get to that year. So that's pretty much the update. Like I said, next week's vlog, if it goes to plan, I'm not promising anything, but next week's vlog will be slightly different in the fact that it may be split up as a day in the life of, or little snippets from each day in the week. I don't know. We'll see. Or it might just me doing this at the end going, yeah, well, I just didn't do it. But who knows? I'm just trying to mix it up a little bit. So yeah, that's it. That's my update. Let me know how you guys are all doing in the comments. How far along are you? I think there's quite a lot of us that are YouTube vlogging that are at that anywhere between 6 and 12 months. I know there's a few people coming up to the 12 months or have just passed it. Like I said, a few of us have just hit the 9 months. Now, I've only actually been vlogging on YouTube for 6 months. So I started my YouTube when I was about 3 months in, 3 or 4 months in. So I've only actually been vlogging for about 6 months. But it's just interesting. There's quite a lot of us that are all at the same stage. So it'd be interesting if you know of anyone that's that is just starting their journey and they've started vlogging, then let me know. If you've got a channel, if you're watching this, pop your details below. I'm happy to jump over and support all YouTubers that are on this journey. Guys, so on that note, I'm going to leave you to it. I will catch you next week. Like I said, in whatever guise the vlog will be. And hopefully I'll be able to kickstart this and get rid of this last few stubborn pounds that I think are going to be a little difficult, but also. Right, guys, you enjoy the rest of your weekend and I will catch you next week. So bye for now.